Hey guys, my name is Harry, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a few things to make you a better perimeter basketball defender. There are actually two things to it, and that is your strength, your physicality, and the footwork. So that's the hardware and the software. Usually most people would focus on the hardware, getting stronger in the weight room, but there's also a component of software where it's very, very important and crucial to allow you to catch up to the offensive player and beat them to their position. So for the hardware, there actually is maybe 2 to 3 components of it. You can look at Steven Adams, great specimen, great human, and he just has the farmer strength. So he doesn't really lift weights, but from the work that he's been putting in since he was young, like with a lot of carrying, just a lot of farmers work stuff, and that's where he kind of get most of his strength from. This is why the construction workers, farmers are super strong. They never lift weights, but they deal with tasks and scenarios where they are needed to adapt to that situation in order to get stronger. And that is more of like a holistic approach of getting strength. It's not like you're trying to isolate like a bodybuilder, but you're getting strength overall in the whole body. And then the next thing, right, is basketball strength, understanding how to take your angles, how to use momentum, which means basically force time velocity. That is basically like maybe Durant. He's very, very good at basketball strength. Super skinny guy. KD as well, relatively skinny guy, but they're able to body people just because they know how to use their angles into the body, how to throw their shoulders into people. SGA is super, super good at that as well, and just learning how to throw them into the other guys with velocity into it, and that will basically be more momentum compared to the other guy who may be 7 foot, but he's standing still. And lastly, the weight room work. That is the part that I usually do with my athletes. Form movement I also do as well. Lots of strongman stuff. Strongman stuff is really, really helpful to just have that Mamba mentality, I would say, to really grind through that final set in the hot weather, to just be mentally strong for it. And for the weight room, it's more of, just trying to get the joint health going, making sure you're structurally balanced in the hamstrings and the quads, for example, as a pair, biceps, triceps, back and chest, making sure that some of the standards are being met in the weight room, so then we can try to minimize the injury risk of maybe ACL tears, ankle sprains, or shoulder injuries. We're not going to basically eliminate all injuries. Basketball and sports are a pretty chaotic thing, so there might be injuries here and there, but at least we can try to reduce its severity by improving their lean body muscle mass as well as their tendon health. So that basically summarizes the hardware stuff on what you can do to become stronger and being able to handle physical contact much better as a defender and even as an offensive player. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the software. So that is where the footwork comes in. A lot of people, even when I was being coached before, when you close out, you try to do the choppy steps. Pretty damn useless. Please don't use it. You try to actually want to sprint out, take 2 big steps and then 2 smaller steps to adjust to the person catching the ball, whether he's a good shooter or just a bad shooter, but you still need to close out that space to give them that threat that you're actually running into them instead of the choppy steps. So there's definitely more to the footwork, right? And another defensive myth is that never cross your feet. So only do lateral slides, never crossing your feet like this because you get beat. But you naturally will be using crossover steps if you're getting beat, because that's the quickest way for you to actually recover and get back in front of your offensive player instead of lateral sliding. Sideways running is very good as well in terms of full court defense, right? If you're defending a person 94 feet and somehow maybe he just blows by you, you just got to run back while looking at him, running like this, facing towards the ball handler, but your legs are facing towards the baseline like this. That's just basically sideways running. You're not going to be laterally sliding. So these are some of the defensive myths. And of course, there's so much more to the footwork stuff and active hands as well. That's kind of like the software that some players do have it instinctively. Drew Holiday does that very well, the active hands and his feet. And plus, he's hella strong for his size. Like, he's hella strong. So even a slight bump from him, it's gonna derail the offensive player from the straight line drive. So he's kind of like a different specimen. So I can't really put him into that. But for example, Patrick Beverley, Jose Alvarado, even Avery Bradley, they have that defensive footwork very, very well and super active hands to bother the shot pocket of the offensive player and just try to make things tough. You see Patrick Beverley, even though he sometimes gets clowned by people, but you can't take away from his defensive efforts. He was playing against KD. He was actually doing solid for almost like a foot of difference of size. He tried to make it hard for KD, but KD's just KD. So of course, defensively, your goal is not to actually stop them from making buckets. You just try to make the bucket as hard as possible for them. Try to expend their energy as much as possible, whether that is changing directions once or twice more to not make them have a straight lane drive towards the rim, because that's going to be the worst case scenario. Let them cross you over maybe 3 or 4 times. Your help defender is going to be there. He has time to react to it, and you just give time for your team to help you out on it if in case anything happens. And for defense, the final bonus tip that I got for you is your mentality. You got to be aggressive. You got to be not passive and just let the offense dictate what you're going to do. You got to be there to eliminate his option. You might be closing out, right, to eliminate his shot. You might be closed out more to the side, so then you're eliminating his right hand drive. You might only be limiting him to one option. He might think that that option is open, but you actually gave that option to him because you don't want him going into his strong hand, for example. So this is definitely a lot about mentality. You might get your ankles broken. This is definitely going to be part of defense. If you're actually trying hard on defense, you will get your ankles broken. You might get dunked on as a shot blocker, but does that stop you from playing defense anymore? I mean, Drew Holiday has got his ankles broken. Tony Allen has got his ankles broken. Bismack Biyombo got dunked on numerous times. Yusuf Nurkic as well got dunked numerous times. But I mean, they still will challenge at the rim because that's what they got to do. I mean, that's their job. That's what they got to do as defenders. You got to defend the rim with whatever the result it is. Make it hard for the offensive player and just trust the process and trust the work and trust that your defense will be able to bother the offense as much as possible. And having the ability to bounce back from setbacks is very important. As I mentioned before, you might get dunked on, you might get your ankles broken, but your ability to reflect on that and understand what happened during then and to eliminate that mistake again and then counter for it. It's just the same as offense. For example, I jab right and then I try to pull up and then maybe the defender tried to shoot my shot and he did shoot my shot. So what should I do next time? Maybe a shimmy jab to kind of get him going to the left first so that I can actually attack right and go right back into my bread and butter pull-up jumper. So defense, you can also actually try to reflect in this manner so then you understand the offensive options, what you got. And this will also come with understanding rules as well. For example, the hezi, it could be like a shot fake and then going to the right, shot fake going to the left, shot fake into the shot. So if you understand that moves only has that number of options, then you only will have like kind of 3 options or like a few options, and you can basically predict some of the things that the offense player will do. And that will make your life as a defender much easier. Hopefully those were some good tips for you to understand on how to become a better perimeter defender. I know I rambled on a little bit in terms of the software side just because there is a lot of aspects into it, but if you're able to get strong and get your footwork, I think that your defense will be in a much better place to get you a spot on the school team, in the university team, or even getting a pro contract